Good morning, campers, and welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood, a Percy Jackson read-along podcast. I'm B.
And I'm Zach.
And this week, we read Chapter 7 of The Last Olympian. My math teacher gives me a lift.
Yeah, she gives a literal lift. It was kind of surprising and shocking. For some reason, I thought she would, drive her motorcycle into the gates of Hades itself.
What a weird callback to have Mrs. Dodds reappear in this chapter.
It's like George Lucas says, it's poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah, I was not expecting to see her again.
This entire chapter was insane.
Yeah, so much happens. It's a real sharp left turn.
There is a lot of back crosses, triple crosses, double crosses, and we also see Grover, who had probably the best sleep game I have ever seen in a person, or I guess a satyr.
Yeah, I kind of wish that I was Grover and I could, nap for a month. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, he had some serious Rip Van Winkle energy.
Yeah, Rip Van Winkle actually takes place pretty close to where I live. I've been to, a statue that, commemorates it or whatever. The Hudson Valley is a good place to fall asleep for years, I guess. I don't even know where to begin with this chapter. It's kind of ridiculous.
More or less, what did you think of this chapter, B?
I feel so conflicted about Nico, I guess, because in some ways I saw it coming, and in other ways, I guess it makes sense that he would do this, but I thought he had grown a lot as a character, so for him to, prioritize himself over Percy felt kind of frustrating, and then even just him trusting Hades in that way was very, I guess, naive of him, when I feel like normally he doesn't trust people, so for someone who tends to be, skeptical, I feel of everyone else in this scenario, he's like, oh, of course, yeah, Hades will hold up his end of the bargain, and that's obviously not what happens, so it's just kind of, confusing and a little frustrating.
It's kind of like he makes a deal with the devil, and of course the devil will give you what you want, but he takes something in return.
He literally kind of makes the deal with the devil to... I mean, it's not quite the same. I guess Hades is more of a morally gray character, but...
Well, it's not like you're not going to have, Nico's going to, fiddle him out. I'm going to take my fiddle out, and we're going to have this epic rock battle. It's nothing like that, but I find it's interesting.
No, there's not going to be a fiddle contest.
No, there isn't. But to quote B, as they sent me a Facebook message, oh man, so much happened. Nico, that little bleep, I will fight him. Those are B's words, not mine.
Oh, yes, I did message you that, yeah. Because I don't know, he's a little twerp. And he has I don't know. This wasn't a, I guess, malicious backstab, and that's what's kind of so frustrating about it, because it comes from this...
I hate to say it, but I feel like for me, Nico's a little justified in this way, but also it's one of those where he's vulnerable, but also he just wants to know a little bit about his past because he can't remember a thing, and things start to be laid out, things that were put in place many books ago are finally kind of come to a head. We learned some more things about the plan. And for me, I think this is such a very solid chapter. While I was reading it, I was like, wow, they could have ended it right here. They could have ended it right here. And for me, I absolutely enjoy this chapter so much. I feel like as much as I don't like Nico as a character in this book series, there's moments where he does shine. This is a great, he's dark and broody most of the time, but here you get to see him vulnerable. Here you get to see him kind of angry. Here you get to see him kind of, I guess, almost betray Percy. But of course, Percy being Percy doesn't really, think this is a betrayal. Oh, he perfectly understands this. And there's a lot of things about Nico that, I guess, surface level, he's kind of bratty and kind of a dweeb and kind of a twerp. But inside, he's just kind of hurt and broken, but he's also a man out of his own time.
Yeah, well, I think an important aspect of Nico's personality is that he's kind of willing to do maybe some not so nice things for his own benefit, and maybe that's the son of Hades aspect of him, but when we're sort of first dealing with issues with Nico and we're worried that he's against Percy, right? He wants to trade a life for life to get Bianca back. He has certain things that he wants, and he's kind of willing to make sacrifices in the name of maybe other people, or I don't think he really thinks about the ramifications of his actions, and I don't always feel like it's vindictive or evil. This doesn't feel like something like Luke would do. He's not trying to hurt Percy in this scenario. He just thinks, oh, well, quid pro quo, it's probably fine. I'll get this help from my dad, and he's going to keep up his end of the bargain, and then he's going to let Percy go, and it's like not going to be a big deal.
That's not how the gods work,
he's,
though. That's the
of
problem.
Course, exactly. Like, well, you have to swear on the river Styx, which is an important aspect of making a deal with a god, I guess, or a deal with kind of any.
Well, yes, but also here's the thing when it comes to this. I feel like when it comes to Nico, I've been playing a lot of D&D lately. Is that Nico isn't an evil character? He's maybe like chaotic neutral in the sense of like he'll do what he needs to do for himself and kind of. I don't know if like he's not ignorant on some facts, but he's very naive on certain things. And that's such a fascinating thing for a character. Again, you could have the Hades approach where he's just pure evil, like he's Damien from The Omen. Like that's his whole character. But here, much like Hades and how you always think of him, he's perceived as evil. He's not really. He's kind of. Hades makes a good point in this where he's talking about why he isn't fighting for the gods. Like, well, they don't really, let me be myself, and they'll let me be up in Mount Olympus. They don't let me do pretty much anything, so I'm going to stay down here where it's safe. And I don't really care. Whereas Nico has the exact same type of personality where he's not quite evil, but he doesn't. Like, he had a sister. She dies, and he's kind of on his own in this way, and it's actually kind of fascinating in that approach of having him. And I feel like we'll probably get more into the chapter because I feel like there's plenty that we could talk about with these whole interactions because I find it both, it's horrifying what's going to happen, but it's also very comedic because you have Demeanor there, you have Persephone.
Yeah, I actually have no idea what's going to happen next. I guess we'll talk about that when I guess the plot of the next chapter, but oh my god, this is like such a change of plans as it is. Anyway, I guess we should start at the beginning with them at Central Park.
Yeah, so they open up a portal and they end up at Central Park. Miss O'Leary is the goodest girl to ever grace the goodest field of Central Park. You know what? They probably ended up right next to the Balto statue.
Yeah, and she just eats the Balto statue.
Yes. Exactly. Take that, Kevin Bacon.
Wait, Kevin
Bacon voiced Balto?
I didn't remember that at all. Okay, I mean, I trust you, but all right. I mean, there was also a real Balto.
Yes, there was a real Balto.
He can't ruin that dog.
Not that I know of. He could have been a heckhound. He was a goodest boy. But they kind of end up there, and Nico kind of reveals that there's actually two entrances to get into Hades. There was a closer one the entire time, and you just drive all the way to Los Angeles.
Are you seeing a theme here? I feel like we keep finding out that there's like easier ways to get places that we've gone in past books, and it's like, oh yeah, the underworld, how it was like so difficult to get to. There's like 5 other ways to get there that like were, really quick and easy and wouldn't take, I don't know, a whole book, for instance.
See, that doesn't bother me because as the world expands, like that stuff kind of happens. That happens a lot in fantasy where like there's that problem with like power leveling where a character gets so powerful that you realize half the stuff in the first couple books, could have been solved with like his pinky toe. And that stuff doesn't really bother me because that's a solution that only a son of Hades could figure out because if you look at the myths, as we know, Percy Jackson doesn't look at myths. It's almost like an obscure myth in that way of like, oh, you need to play music, you have to impress this guy, and he'll bring you down to Hades. In that way, there's like a tunnel. Whereas you wouldn't think about that. Whereas the quest is pretty much, as Rick Riordan likes to put it, like you get from point A to point B, but in between point A and point B, you have like C stories that kind of happen.
Yeah, well, I guess it kind of makes sense that like as the world expands, you need to also give the characters like a quicker way to travel about these different places because we don't have the time to have a whole book where they're traveling to the underworld. So it's kind of like as the stakes increase, so do like their ability to sort of, I guess, fast travel. It's kind of the same logic of video games in a way. It's like, oh, you've traveled to all these different places. Now you could get to them much more quickly because the plot kind of demands it, and it would be like really frustrating to be like, all right, well, for the next several chapters, we traveled all the way across the country to get to the gates of the underworld. Like that would have been really annoying. So I understand why it functions that way, but it's kind of funny in retrospect. Like if I was Percy, I'd be like, oh, of course, it's in Central Park.
Like I totally get it because how Rick Riordan writes his books, he always wants to have the road trip, which is something that I love the road trip type of story. If may it be like Canterbury Tales or even the SpongeBob movie. Like I love the road trip.
From the Canterbury Tales to the SpongeBob movie to what is it? Trains, Planes, and Automobiles?
Yeah, Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, or Dumb and Dumber.
I don't think I've seen Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, don't worry, you're not losing sleep. I like Dumb and Dumber, but I watch it with my family.
That's the alternative title for this podcast, I think.
Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of.
I'm not sure who is dumb and who is dumber, though. We kind of trade off.
Yeah, a little bit. But what I like about that is that you have what Rick Riordan really wants to embody is like Americana. It's a lot like American Gods in the way of like he just wants to deep dive into mythology, but also Americana.
The road trip does give you the opportunity to be like, here are these monuments. Like, I totally understand the structure and everything. It's just thinking within the story. It would be very funny to be Percy and be like, oh, this thing that I worked really hard on before is actually much easier.
Yes, and it's also when it comes to, like the fun-loving adventures that ended after Titan's Curse. Like the fun-loving adventure doesn't exist anymore.
It's been not fun for a while.
Yeah, it's been kind of it's kind of been like a bogus journey. When it comes to it, I like that in this book that they have to get to places because it's almost like world hopping. Not like in the sense of like Star Wars and like, oh, we have to get to this place to get to this place to get to this place. But like you need to go across the country because not only is this book taking place in a very small place, but it's taking place over the entire United States because we have the gigantic Titan basically making his way down to the East Coast. So everything about this entire United States
the
is in
stakes
jeopardy.
are raised, I guess. So that adds to it too. Like the being able to travel like throughout the country makes sense because everything is on a grander scale, so that you wouldn't want them to just be at camp or just be at the underworld or just be in Connecticut at Luke's house or whatever. They're hopping all over the place, and the introduction of shadow travel is really helpful with that.
I like shadow travel. Shadow travel is kind of cool in that way, and it does make sense in the theme of Percy Jackson and also with Hades, because in the first book you have the Helm of Darkness, which makes you into pure shadow. Thus, you can travel, you can do all these things. Whereas now Nico has this ability. Yeah, there's the weird thing like, okay, he's learning all these weird abilities. And it can be kind of like jarring at times, but I guess it does make sense in the grander scheme of things. But they make it to Central Park and they need someone to play music, but both of them are very tone deaf. I'm sure Nico is a soprano.
Probably, yeah.
And they're all tone deaf, and they need someone to play music. But luckily, they know one person that knows how to play some kickin' Hillary Duff.
Yeah, do they only know one person who plays an instrument? Of course, it's Grover, but they haven't heard from him in a while. Which this is kind of like, I kind of forgot that we hadn't heard from him in a while because there's been so much stuff going on. I'm like, oh right, he's missing, doing something about nature. Listen, there's a lot going on.
He got lost in the Canadian wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. Give him some slack.
Or in this case, he got actually lost in Central Park. Then less lost and more just taking a nap.
Well, to be fair, last time I was in Central Park, I got bad lost.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, don't go at night, kids.
Unless you want to recreate Batman, please don't.
Yeah. But if you see a bird lady, tell her Kevin McAllister sent you.
For some reason, I'm thinking it's like the bird lady from Hey Arnold now, the Birdman. Like she just flies away with her pigeons. Her pigeons carry her away to greener pastures.
Wait, are you talking about the Birdman from Hey Arnold?
I am. It's a mixture of both of them.
Always wash your berries before you eat them and fly toward the sun.
Oh, man.
I sound even more like him with bronchitis, actually.
Yes.
Maybe I am the pigeon man.
Secretly. This is where the empathy link finally comes back into play, and I was really excited.
I know, the empathy link. Oh my god. It came back. We've been talking about it. And they kind of like retcon why it hasn't been working or something. I don't know.
Like, it's weird because it's like we've been super negative about a lot of things, like the last couple chapters, but now things are starting to like flip around. Like, oh my god, things are finally coming into play, and I love it. It's great.
It said, my empathy link was really tingling for the first time in months, which either meant a whole lot of people had suddenly switched on the nature channel or Grover was close. So, like, his empathy link tingles when he's close to Grover.
Oh my god, is Percy Spider-Man?
I know, it's like Spidey sense, but then, like, his empathy link was really strong when he was far away from Grover, and Grover was in the Sea of Monsters with the Cyclops, so I'm like, it still doesn't quite have its own internal logic, if that makes sense. Like, it's just kind of like, let's just use this, when it makes sense for the plot. And now it does, because we need to find him, I guess.
Let me just pull up my Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rulebook. That's the empathy link. Yep, can't find anything on there. So we'll never know the rules.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a sort of internal consistency, but that's fine. At least they bring it back. They didn't totally forget that the empathy link exists.
Well, I like that the empathy link actually works this time, because every time Percy has tried to use it, there's been a magical means on why they can't use it. May it be that they're in the labyrinth. May it be that they're in a place that requires that they can't use it. And this works because they find Grover, and guess what? He's like really, really tired because they find out that he's been asleep for 2 months. He has had an Odin sleep.
Yeah, because he met with, was it Morpheus? Yeah, Morpheus is because Orpheus is the guy with the door.
Yes.
But Morpheus is the guy with the sleep. It's very confusing.
Orpheus is where we get the word orifice from, like a door of some sort.
Oh, right. That makes sense. Yeah. All right. Latin roots, folks.
Latin roots, yes. And we got Morpheus, who, in my head, Kenny, he's still Lawrence Fishburne.
Like morphine. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of easy to remember. That sounds like sleep.
Yes. Or mesmerize is different.
No, Mesmer was like a guy. That's a different person.
Yeah, if you want to find out mesmerization or being mesmerized, that wasn't a doctor.
Yeah, no, that was much later on.
Unless Morpheus is Mesmer.
Oh, yeah, he's the same guy. All right. Well, now you're like writing your own American gods right now.
Well, I guess there's also Hypnos. So I guess Hypnos would be hypnotize.
Yeah, Hypnos is kind of.
So I guess there's like a contention over there. But so it turns out that Morpheus actually put Grover to sleep. And I like the description they kind of give for Morpheus because like he looks like a really abstract idea of like, oh, when you have a dream, things don't quite make sense, faces don't look right and stuff. Because one of the coolest things I found out is that if you ever see a person in a dream, our brains can actually recreate people's faces. They take bits and pieces of people you've seen in your real life to make new faces in dreams, and I thought that was so fascinating.
Yeah, like in Inception. Yeah. Yeah, the man in a long black coat, and he didn't cast a shadow in the middle of a sunny day.
He's Morpheus from The Matrix.
That's very creepy.
Grover, would you like a red or blue pill?
So is it Lawrence Fishburne?
Yeah, he's Larry Fishburne. He's Cowboy Curtis himself.
I was forgetting he was Cowboy Curtis. That's so hilarious to me.
Yeah, he's also in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors.
Wow, why is he always in things about dreams?
I don't know. Who knows? For some reason, he's now cast right here.
And Pee-wee's Playhouse is in itself a fever dream, so...
Yes. They'll tell him Large Marge sent ya.
Why did you have to make me remember that? I had almost forgotten.
Hey, I've been traumatized for my entire life. Everyone has to be traumatized.
Now kids are going to be like Googling it or whatever, like find a YouTube video and just ruin their whole lives.
Yes. So it turns out Grover has been asleep for 2 months, which sounds so bomb to me. I could go for a bomb 2-month nap.
Yeah, that I could go for that. I feel like I'd wake up and be like, oh, finally refreshed.
Have you ever had a nap where you took a nap and then it goes from like day to night and you realize what year is it?
Yeah, I've definitely, if you like fall asleep at like 5 p.m. and you wake up at like 8 p.m. and you don't know if it's like 8 a.m. the next day or like you've slept, there's so many times that I've done. It's called the devil's nap. It's like, it's cursed.
That has happened to me several times where I've gone to sleep, taken a nap because I was really tired. I woke up and I thought I was late for work. The work is the next day. I start putting on my clothing and try to get to my car. And then I realized the little PM symbol, like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. That's why AM and PM are a thing, or at least some people just use the 24-hour clock because that makes sense, honestly.
Yes. So Grover's like, oh, yeah, sure, guys. I'll help you with your space door.
I like that they just needed to use the empathy link to wake him up. Like, it wasn't that powerful of a spell, I guess, because he just, like, woke up.
Well, you got to remember that Morpheus is a minor god. So he isn't going to, like, put Grover to sleep forever.
Yeah, he also specifically said, oh, I'm just going to, like, have you take a little nap. So it wasn't, like, his greatest sleeping spell of all. I don't know. And
it's almost weirdly convenient that he put him to sleep in Central Park, the place that they needed to go to.
Yeah, do you think that was intentional? I mean, obviously you've read this, so that might be a spoiler, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Because, all right, well, we're going to find out. We've already mentioned that Nico betrays Percy.
So what ends up happening is Percy Jackson ends up in the underworld with Nico. Grover kind of stays behind to watch Miss O'Leary. And things look good until guess who pops up? Mrs. Dodds.
Yeah, just kind of out of nowhere. She's pretty horrifying. Because she's like in full fury mode. She doesn't have to pretend to be a teacher.
Oh no, she's like Polly want a cracker. She's gonna bite Percy's face clean off. Because I mean, the whole dead thing and being reformed. Sorry about that.
So I guess like Nico does this like sort of like, so anyway, I promise that you can meet my dad, and it's fine. And then like Miss O'Leary, he just like says it in like this really like weird nonchalant way, like it's fine. And like I think maybe to some extent he knows that it's a bad idea.
The way that he talks about it is how like when you have like commercials for like medicines, and very quickly they talk to you about like the side effects, like death, explosive diarrhea, implosive diarrhea, things that are awful.
Oh, implosive diarrhea is even worse than explosive. That's the worst one.
Oh no! But yeah, you know, it's
When
like
you
exactly. Oh man, you look like the blueberry from Willy Wonka.
Oh my God, Violet, you're turning violet, Violet.
But so what ends up happening is Percy Jackson gets literally lifted up. So I guess my math teacher gives me a lift. Actually makes sense. She grabs him with her boy catching hands and talons.
It is pretty literal. I mean, I don't know why I didn't guess right away that the math teacher was Mrs. Dodds when last episode you were like, math teacher, and then it kind of all clicked into place. Like, oh, of course, that's like the only plot significant math teacher we've met in this series.
Well, it comes full circle because the beginning of the book kind of starts that way with Mrs. Dodds.
Yeah, that's like the first monster that Percy fights, even before the Minotaur, is Mrs. Dodds.
Yes, this is the Fury. This is what you think about. You either think of Furies or Harpies, and this is the latter. I like Furies, actually. They're kind of cool. They're always depicted really scarily, and I think, for me, that is so witchin', and I love it.
Isn't there like a line where she says she's really good at playing lawyers and teachers, which I thought was really funny?
And it's a little subtle hint about what's happening because you'd have to remember that little piece of detail in the last book about Nico.
Well, no, because they do, because that's later when he finally does get to Hades and he starts asking questions. He's very vaguely answering them just to kind of like perfunctorily get his end of the deal over with.
It's a very subtle thing that I don't know if like Rick Riordan, when he was writing the last book, but like, okay, we're going to put like a lawyer character, it's going to be kind of mysterious, and then he filled it in as Mrs. Dodds.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like a retcon thing or if he had planned it. It feels like a retcon thing, because I don't know if that would have even been on his mind when he wrote the first book.
Here's the funny thing, though, B, and this is not even a spoiler, but there's things reading this book now that start to play, like they actually name characters, they name certain things that will play a part possibly in the next book series that I was shocked about, that I had never caught, that he had planned things super far ahead. And I won't tell you what they are.
Yeah, so I don't know. We know that he plots a lot of stuff, but it's like, I think he does also leave some room for inspiration, I guess.
I think he leaves things open-ended, much like, oh man, we used some Star Wars stuff like The Force Awakens. It's a pretty open-ended movie. And it's supposed to lead into the other ones, but I won't talk about that. But it's like that, like he leaves some things open-ended that if he comes up with like a really good idea that could like fit into place like puzzle pieces.
Yeah, I have a feeling that he wanted the lawyer to be some significant person, but it worked out that it was Mrs. Dodds because of everything with Nico. We don't really know. We'd have to
Unless
like
we talk
directly
to
ask
him.
him. Yeah, we should ask him. I don't know if he would even remember, honestly. Some people just write stuff down, but
Oh yes, that's in my third home. Like he like walk into his third home. They're covered in like notes and sticky notes. It looks like the home of a serial killer. And there's
yeah,
just
like
lines
in,
of string.
in The Shining.
Yeah. No work and no play make Rick Riordan a dull boy.
Make Rick Riordan a rich man, honestly.
That guy's counting his Disney bucks right now. Ooh. I like this interaction that they have because it's so matter-of-factly. Like, there isn't a part where Percy Jackson and Mrs. Dodds have a battle scene. Pretty much Percy Jackson knows, like, I have to go with the flow with all this stuff because I've dealt with this so long. And, okay, Hades just wants to talk to me. There's not going to be any harm whatsoever. I mean, in the first book, he did keep his word about releasing his mom. So you can kind of trust Hades in that sense, but you have to be very cautious when it comes to him.
Yeah, I don't think, again, Hades is a lot like Nico, and it's kind of interesting because I don't think he's evil. I just think he's sort of like, he's in it for himself and he like manipulates the situation.
No, I think the best way to put it, someone had told me once that when it comes to Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus, they all picked straws and Hades kind of got the short end of the stick and he's perceived as super evil, even though he's not, which I actually think Hades is such an interesting character, much as like how I like Loki.
Not to say that like D&D alignments are always exactly right, but he's like not, he might be evil, like he's kind of like neutral evil, like he doesn't
might actually
really
be pure neutral,
or
I
like
think.
true neutral, maybe even true neutral, because he kind of just doesn't care what happens.
Because the way they depict like Hades, they depict how the underworld is that he isn't super duper evil, like heads on spikes. He isn't like the devil, but also he doesn't care.
Right, like he doesn't just do things to be cruel, but he also doesn't goes out of his way to be kind either. It's kind of like, well, I do what I want, I do what's best for me. I take advantage of loopholes, like that kind of thing is, I think, Hades' whole MO.
Well, if you were to pick it like from a Harry Potter house, he would be like true Slytherin in that way.
Yeah, definitely. He's like very like cunning and like he knows that Nico's so desperate for information about his past that he can manipulate the situation that Nico, it won't occur to him to like have him, swear on the river Styx and like promise to keep his entire end of the bargain. It's like he just fulfills it enough to like not be totally in the wrong, I guess.
If I were to use a Star Wars thing, it would be Obi-Wan telling Luke that Darth Vader killed his father. From a certain point of view, it's true. Technically, you can tell the truth but still be lying at the exact same time, but you're still giving a truth.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'll tell you your past. And it's like not that important, I guess, what he ends up saying. Because he just wants what he wants, And he's like, all right, I'll throw you a few kind of meaningless details about this stuff in order to get what I want.
Yeah, and when it comes to Hades, I find him such an interesting character, much as like I like Loki as an interesting character. It's weird because like there's certain bad people that you find more interesting than the actual heroes, because when it comes to heroes, they're supposed to like react to the villain's proactivity. I like Hades in that sense of like he doesn't want to react or proact or do whatever he wants to do action-wise. He just wants to sit there in his spooky underground castle with his wife and his mother-in-law and be miserable.
Yeah, basically. And he's just like not involved in the war really at all because he just doesn't feel like he has any alliances.
They do talk about that, and I find it interesting what he says is kind of like, well, the gods don't really treat me all that well. I can only go up to Mount Olympus once a year. The rest of the time I'm stuck down here. And you know what? I'm kind of like a lone wolf in the sense of like I like what I do here, but also they're mucking things up, and I don't think the Titans are going to take over my domain, because if I'm just neutral, what are they going to do? Kill me? I'm already in the underworld.
Yeah, well, this is what Hades says. All the other gods are fighting Typhon, and you're just sitting here waiting things out, Hades finish. Yes, that's correct. When's the last time Olympus ever helped me, Half-Blood? When's the last time a child of mine was ever welcomed as a hero? Bah! Why should I rush out to help them? I'll stay here with my forces intact, and when Kronos comes after you, let him try. He'll be weakened, and my son here, Nico, Hades looked at him with distaste. Well, he's not much now, I'll grant you. It would have been better if Bianca had lived, but give him 4 more years of training. We can hold out for that long, surely. Nico will turn 17, as the prophecy says, and then he will make the decision that will save the world, and I will be king of the gods.
He's trying to manipulate the prophecy in that way of like, I want to have control over things.
I knew Nico would have something to do with the prophecy, because as long as there is a child of the big 3 who can turn 16, there's always the slight chance that it's not going to be Percy. We know it's not going to be Talia now because of what happened with her being a hunter of Artemis, so she's suspended forever as not 16 years old, and she can't complete the prophecy. Bianca, she's dead, so she can't do it. She's not included in the prophecy. So the only person left is Percy.
Yes, and I find it so fascinating in the sense of like when you're talking about this monologue about how there aren't any heroes on Hades' sake, like there aren't really any myths about, sons or daughters of Hades, and how this book series could have easily been Percy is a son of Hades, and you try to like flip that perception.
That would have been such a different book series, but that would be very fascinating.
Well, no, it'd be the exact same type of series about the lightning thief and how you accuse the son of Hades about stealing the Master Bolt.
That's true. That would make a lot of sense for the plot.
It would be like a new story about how the perception of like you can't judge a person by his parentage because let's say Percy is the son of Hades. Everyone perceives Hades as a bad guy, but when it comes to Percy trying to like change that perspective, like you can easily have the exact same message about having like, superpowers from dyslexia, ADHD, autism, whatever, but you also have the added bonus of like your parents don't define you. Like you can be your own person, you can be in your own alignment.
Yeah, I think a lot of the lessons would probably be the same. And I think to some extent that's what Nico is here for, is he's supposed to be like the Hades' equivalent of Percy. Like, oh, see, you're not necessarily defined in this way. Though then again, he betrays Percy, but like not out of spite, but in a way where he's like just trying to do something where he thinks everyone will benefit.
This is his vulnerability because Hades knows people's, flaws. He knows people's like weaknesses, and he's exploiting that.
So what would we call Nico's fatal flaw exactly? I guess it's like, is it like selfishness is sort of...
Well, I think actually his fatal flaw is a hunger to belong somewhere and know who he is.
There's definitely that. But I mean, like, specifically, because we've dealt with the thing with him trying to bring Bianca back. And that's why he was trying to kill Daedalus.
Well, actually, you know what? It probably his fatal flaw is finding a purpose.
Yeah, I guess. Or, like, yeah, finding a sense of himself. Because, like, he wanted to bring Bianca back, and I think that's partly because she gave him a sense of self, a sense of family, and then now he wants to know more about his other family, his parents.
And when he's trying to bring her back, he has a new purpose of trying to bring her back, and now that he's not going to do that, he wants to find out where he came from, who his mom is, and his past, because he's a man at a time. He's a lot like Steve Rogers, Captain America, where he's just 60, 70 years have went by.
Well, yeah, there's also the whole thing with him being suspended in the Lotus Hotel for a long time. So that affects his character a lot.
Again, I find that stuff to be so fascinating. Like, there's so many great elements in Nico that I do like. There are a lot of things that I don't like about him. That just comes from, like, his personality a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that... I would have been really frustrated if, like, he was like, haha, we got you, we tricked you. All along I was in cahoots with Hades, and now we can keep you trapped here, and then I can be the prophecy child. Like, he's not like that. He wasn't in with the plan with Hades. He, too, in some ways is betrayed. It's like a double betrayal, because he sort of betrays Percy, and then because Hades doesn't keep up his end of the bargain and only speak to Percy like what, honestly, Nico foolishly believed, then both of them end up getting betrayed.
I understand, like, where Nico's coming from. I actually have a friend that almost has a very similar thing to this, where when he was a baby, his biological parents, gave him up for adoption, and he went to live with foster parents who were very nice people. I won't use his name. He's probably, I don't even know if he listens to this. But later on, he went to go find his actual parents. And it turns out they weren't that good of people. Like, they kind of like took advantage of him. They were stealing money from him. And all he wanted to do was like kind of just know them.
There's definitely that kind of narrative with people who have an estranged relationship with a parent, or they don't know a parent. Maybe they died before they were born or something like that. There's definitely that kind of sense of like, oh, I need to know who they are so I know who I am kind of thing.
Yes, and it's not a matter of like why I want to know this, but it's like, why do I want to know this? Why did you give me up for adoption? Why didn't you want to keep me? It's that question, which is very similar to this, where it's kind of actually the exact same thing. Like, they didn't know their mom, and we kind of learn a bit about her mom in the sense of kind of, she was from New York, she was Italian, and she was very lovely, and that's pretty much it. That's all he learns.
Yeah, he doesn't learn that much. I mean, how they met, I guess, is kind of the only thing. But it's like, it's kind of superfluous stuff. And that's
the thing.
Yeah, because Hades doesn't care. He doesn't care what stuff he's telling Nico. He just, like, wanted Percy.
Well, from a certain point of view, he's telling Nico what he wants to hear. He's telling exactly. He never said that he would tell him in full detail, like, who she was, where she's buried right now, or if she's in the underworld.
Yeah, there isn't really a lot of information about that. I don't know. I hope we find out a little bit more about his mom, because I don't know if that becomes important later on.
I find that story to be fascinating. I see it kind of like series of unfortunate events in that way. And how it's like, oh, you want to know people.
Well, yeah, like
know
the mystery of like where you come from and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Who your parents were. Because a lot of like what comes from your parents coming to you in that sense. I guess that's kind of a thing that happens in Percy Jackson, where personalities.
Yeah, that's true too. Even like there's godly parents that people don't know who their godly parent are, or they do know, but they haven't met them or don't know them very well. And there's a lot of like that specific type of angst in this series about like, okay, how am I related to this person? Am I like them in some way? I need to like contextualize who I am. There's like a lot of like existential angst when it comes to being a demigod, I feel like.
There was a lot of angst, but when it comes to this chapter, why I love this chapter, and I think, yeah, Nico is behaving in such a weird way, but if you look at this chapter almost like a political thriller, it's phenomenal because there's a lot of like backstabbing, double-crossing, but also telling the truth.
But yeah, everyone has their own motivations, and it's like it's not always completely black and white, good and evil. This isn't like, Luke in the first book, like completely betraying Percy and being like, haha, I want to kill you. We're totally on the wrong side of whatever. Like, it's a totally different thing. This is much more of like a morally gray, like, Nico wants something, but it's not totally against Percy's interest. And then I guess what Hades wants is kind of against Percy's interest, but it's not really coming from a place of like he wants Percy to die or anything. Though he does say he wants to kill him because he finds him annoying. But like it's not about that really.
Well, to be fair, Percy Jackson can be low-key annoying at times.
Yeah, I don't know if I would kill him, but I understand where Hades is coming from.
Oh, he's probably like, I'm gonna kill you, and it's like with interpretive dance.
Yeah.
Hey, B.
Hey, Zach.
So I lost all of our passwords. My mom washed them in my jeans.
Why were they in your jeans?
Because that's where you're supposed to keep all your passwords, right?
On a piece of paper in your jeans?
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably the worst place to keep your passwords.
What is a good way to keep my passwords then?
Dashlane Premium combines unlimited password storage synced across all your devices with dark web monitoring and a VPN for Wi-Fi protection. It's the easy solution for autofilling passwords and personal information combined with advanced tools you'll never want to browse without. For 20% off Dashlane Premium, go to dashlane.com/camphalfblood and enter code CAMPHalfBlood.
Wow, because of that, I don't have to wear super big pockets anymore. I'm going to wear some short shorts. Thanks, B. Or something like that. But my favorite part about this, though, is while this meeting is happening, there's Persephone, Hades' wife, and also Demeter.
Yeah, because they're there for some reason, even though it's not winter, because they're, like, being protected from the war, basically.
Yeah, so that's why the weather has been so weird lately, is because they're kind of dealing with nature. They're both, when both of them are down there, it's wintertime. When it's not, it's like nice and springy. And for some reason, I imagine Demeter being Judi Dench for some weird reason.
Is Judi Dench in her cat's costume?
Yeah, exactly.
With her one human hand with the wedding ring on it?
With her one human hand.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to see Cats tomorrow. I'm so excited. Yes, I'm excited to see this train wreck.
Wow, what a New Year's Eve.
Well, I want to start off at rock bottom, so 2020 can be good.
That's true. That's like the lowest you can go.
Oh, I'm so excited. My friend already got us tickets.
I feel like you just like shouldn't sleep at all and then go see it, because that just is just like an out of body experience to see Cats without any sleep.
I am so excited to see that movie. That movie's what nightmares are made out of.
So yeah, you were thinking of Judi Dench and her human hand, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Because you need to have like someone that's almost. When I think of Hades, I kind of think of like stouty British people. Like when you think of like aristocratic.
That's not what I think of, but that is very funny. That's a good headcanon, I guess.
What do you think of?
When I think of Hades, or when I think of Demeter, or...
What do you think of Demeter and all that stuff? Because right now they're being kind of like witchy.
Yeah, I guess I kind of just pictured more of like a witchy interpretation. Also, I feel like I picture everyone with American accents because it takes place in America. So like my brain is like, oh, everyone has the accent of where like the seat of power is, like kind of the way that the logic works.
So in that logic, they'd all have like California accents. So would like Persephone have like a Valley Girl accent? And would would Demeter, she would kind of look like a Beverly Hills mom, like a Karen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with like yoga pants or something.
Not even yoga pants. I feel like she's like wearing like I don't even like a pink suede suit of some sort, or like something that's just like really obnoxious.
Oh yeah, like a what is it? A Juicy Couture, like
yes,
like velour sweatsuit,
or maybe even like Lululemon. That seems more pretentious.
Well, I said that Lululemon is yoga pants, so I said that. But yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, enough about the fashions of the people of California. The fashions of the people of New York include heavy jackets right now. It's windy and cold and miserable here.
So the plan is they're going to throw Percy in the dungeon until he's like old, and then probably kill him, and Nico will become the new person in the prophecy.
Yeah, 50 or 60 years. So they're just like really planning on just kind of like fridging him for a while.
The chapter kind of ends off with pretty much, guards, take him away.
Yeah, I don't really know what happens after that, because it's kind of like, he gets captured. Captured is a weird way to phrase it, because it's like...
especially with Judi Dench, he's been captured.
Oh my god. I'm not going to dignify that with a response. But yeah, it's weird because it's like not aggressive. It's not like he's being killed or tortured or anything. He's just sort of like, we're going to put you on the back burner.
He's a political prisoner.
Yeah, basically. It's weird. Obviously I think he escapes because I think that this would be a really boring book if we have to wait for like Nico to turn 16. That's probably not going to happen, but unless there's like a totally bonkers time jump, because that would like really be such a weird flex on Rick Riordan's part if he was like, yeah, this whole story, actually, we're going to like speed past all of these years and like Percy's going to be like an old man. And
I would love that.
Yeah, that would be really fascinating. Well, no, because Nico would have to be 16, so it would only be 4 years later that if we were jumping ahead to him being part of the prophecy. Wait, okay, so if Nico turns 16 in 4 years, then why would you need to keep Percy in prison for 50 or 60 years? You just need to keep him in prison for 4 years, right?
Well, that's because Hades thinks he's annoying and he just keeps upping the prison sentence.
So he's just like, just for a bonus. Yeah, like, I don't want to look at you. Just get away.
It's going to be like the novelty like dungeon where Percy Jackson turns around. There's going to be like a skeleton being held
like
up
a
by
fake
nothing.
Skeleton. Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the one time that I like weirdly went to a church group and it was in the basement of a church and they had a skeleton?
You've told me this off air, but I'd like to hear this on air.
I mean, that's the story basically. It was kind of spooky. I'm not going to like name them because I feel like I don't know. It was a weird church group that I don't really know. I do know I went. I had a crush on one of the guys who went there. There, I said it. And also because sometimes they served pizza before and there was candy. There was a lot of reasons I went, not the Jesus part, but the other parts were kind of fun. And the part where you go into the weird basement, that was fun in sort of a Halloween haunted house kind of way. And yeah, they had like a plastic skeleton that they called Theo the Theologian.
The weird awkward part is like when he got down there and they started putting on their red robes.
Yeah, it was weird. And he like wore like a weird little black hoodie because if you went for 3 times in a row, they would give you a black hoodie with like their insignia on it and they called it your hooding ceremony. It was like almost a cult. Anyway, I forget that happened.
Oh man. So B, what is the name of the next chapter?
The name of the next chapter is Chapter 8. I take the worst bath ever. Oh, geez. Okay, does he fall into one of the rivers? I feel like it's...
One of the plans they actually kind of talk about. They talk about a river.
They do. So there's the river Styx, which you have to cross if you're dead. I don't really know what happens if you fall into it. I don't know the lore about that. And then what was the other river again where Bob falls into it and they like...
The river Thames.
Yeah. No, is that it? Yeah.
I didn't say the Thames. I said Thames. I think it's Thames, Thames.
And it like erases your memory or something. So those are 2 plot significant rivers that exist in Hades. So I feel like he's going to fall into one of those. And I don't really know what the plan is. And I can't tell if that's just my reading comprehension or they haven't fully explained it yet. Like they've been sort of like...
It's almost like a process of elimination right now.
Yeah, they've been talking around it and kind of implying something about what the plan is, but I don't think it's ever been like written out exactly. So like, I don't know. Again, I've also been like sick with a fever for the past couple days, so maybe I'm not picking up on information as quickly as I normally would, but yeah, I don't really know other than that. I hope it's not like a lake of lava or something and then he just died. I guess it's magma because it's still in the center of the earth.
The only hint that I'm going to give you is follow and trust Brad Pitt.
Follow and trust Brad Pitt. All right, well, that's meaningless to me, so thank you for that hint. That helped me not at all. Thank you. I love you all. I'll see you all in therapy. I don't know. I don't know what I could possibly...
Get out of that?
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out next time because Percy Jackson's going to have bath time.
I'm not the sharpest right now, so maybe I'm going to like look back on this and be like, of course. But like, I have no idea what's going to happen. Obviously, Percy's going to escape at some point, though, because like, there's no way. There's no way he's staying in there for at least 4 more years for Nico to turn 16 or whatever. Like, something's going to happen.
Unless he becomes Percy Swole Jackson.
Yeah, there's this maybe like derailed the plot a little bit, but I don't foresee it completely changing the structure of the book.
Well, it's an interesting cliffhanger because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah,
you do know that it's going to be fixed in some way, but I don't really know how.
I mean, the only way this could be more of a cliffhanger is if they do like Edgar Allan Poe with the Cask of Amontillado. Brick by brick. Isn't that right, Percy?
It kind of is like that. They just kind of seal him up. They're like, all right, Goodbye.
Have fun. For the love of God, Amansor. Yes, for the love of gods. So, B, you want to read some emails?
Yeah, so we actually got a few emails because we took a little bit of a break.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah, we had Christmas stuff, though it was weird because for me, Christmas came early, even though I'm very, very Jewish, and the last night of Hanukkah is tonight. I actually got some Christmas presents from Santa. But B, what did you get for Christmas?
Well, I got a few nice things, some slippers, some pajamas, bronchitis, the usual.
You know, the gift that keeps on giving.
The gift that, yeah, it gave, because my sister gave it to me, and then I gave it to my mom, and then my boyfriend has, so it's fun for the whole family. Bronchitis, get it today. At a Walmart near you. Probably. It's probably there, honestly.
I got some new socks, I got a keyboard, and then I got a present from Santa, Dionysus, and UB, and it was really weird because the box came, and my mom was freaking out that I bought something.
Oh my god.
I'm going to open it up right now. We're going to get some ASMR. You guys ready for this? This is going to sound really sexy. Oh my god, it's Sanitar!
Wait, that sounds like it's like a Santa that's like sanitizing. It's a Santar. It doesn't like sell quite as much when you can't read the word. It's a Santa centaur.
Santar.
So half
Santatar.
Santa, half horse, all Christmas
All gift
spirit.
presents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty much buff Santa, swole Santa, with a really swole top and then a horse bottom. And I want this in Percy Jackson so bad now.
Yeah, horsing around. Yeah, sort of like how like Santa shows up in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but instead it's like Santor shows up and like has, I don't know, weapons. That'd be pretty funny.
Is there a Christmas short story where Percy Jackson meets Santa Claus? Because I feel like Santa Claus would be a demigod, or at least a minor god.
I'm sure there'd be some sort of thing where he'd be looped in with like the lore. But no, there hasn't been any Santa thing. There was that guy who looked like Santa. He was like a minor god, remember? I forget his name.
Yes, it was the
like an ocean
water
god.
guy from the second book.
So that's
He
the
was a
closest
hobo.
we've gotten. But other than that, not really. We haven't gotten a holiday
the
special or
chapter's
anything.
called I Wrestle Santa Claus, so I guess they did meet Santa.
Yeah, they say Santa Claus, but it's not really him.
So B, do you want to read some emails now?
Yeah, so we got a few. First one is from Emily, who says, Emily here. So my grandma came over to help me and my sisters, my little sister and my little brothers. I'm a triplet, and the oldest, I may add. Oh, cool, a triplet. Made Christmas food. Our food processor is ancient, but it served us well for 20 years. Well, it broke. My mother insisted we throw it away, but my sister said she had faith I could fix it. My grandmother promised me a quarter if I could, so I took it apart, found the problem, rigged up a temporary solution. We finished the chopping for our food. Granted, the processor was then thrown away shortly after. In all, I want to know what's the silliest, weirdest thing you've done for something for as little as a quarter.
Oh boy.
I wasn't expecting. I thought it was like going to be like, what is like the weirdest way you fix something? Because I actually have like a lot of recent examples of that.
I
but
got
as far
plenty
as
of
like,
them.
I don't know, for as little as a quarter.
Well, as little as a quarter, you know what my best response to this is, B? Podcast. Yo, bro, I would like you to do all my podcasting stuff for me. You know, edit, mix, record the show.
Yeah.
We can't really pay you right now, but we'll give you some, a shout out and boost up your reputation.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. There was that internship I had. I was being paid a little bit. I don't know if I could like average it out to like a quarter an hour or something. Maybe it was, like the way that you pay people in a developed country.
For me, I think something that I've done for a quarter. Define quarter because I guess maybe like food. I've done like whole 8-hour jobs for just food before. Like for me, like
Which
doing
is
the whole
close enough.
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
mean,
that's
that doesn't
true.
bother me because it was college, it was job experience. That doesn't bother me at all. But it's one of those, like, I'll give an example. Actually, this is a good piece of advice. We'll probably move on after this, is that when you're in a creative field, everybody, start off by saying yes to everything until you feel comfortable asking for money. And then stop taking all those free jobs.
Yeah.
You should build up your portfolio.
Yeah, because then you should draw a line in the sand at some point.
Yes, you need to draw a line at sand because people, I'm not even cynical about this, people will take advantage of you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely in creative fields. They're like, oh, but you're my friend because I know a person who knows a person, so you'll do it for free. And it's like, that's not how it works.
I will read the next one. It says, look at my email and you'll know what I'm about to talk about. So first off, my email address is named after Nico and Miss O'Leary. Yes, Nico, Miss O'Leary, Dark Wolf. I may be a few weeks behind the podcast, but still have some stuff to say about Nico. I just listened to your 100th episode, and Zach, I sure hope you're talking about Nico in the first series when you say he's your least favorite character. I'm not real thrilled that you said that, but I still love you guys, though. It's just because your format and banter is so good. The analysis is top notch. You guys do so much justice to the series that means so much to me. So many people I'm going to discuss some things that happen later on in the series, so I hope that you'll be able to edit this email. Don't worry, I already did. So B can't read this without being spoiled in class. I slip up.
Yep, that's why you run the email.
But here's my case for why Nico is my favorite character. Actually, I'll separate these into two parts. Thank you so much. And I'll read the B approved part, but I'll let you know that I read the second part of that, and I'll give my answer once I read the B part. B. Nico is shallow and one-dimensional in the first series, but Rick does a really good job of fleshing him out in later books. He gives justification to why Nico acts the way he does. He creates a character that helped me through a rough time in my life. He's one of my favorite characters to this day. Unrelated, but did you guys hear about the Twitter hype about Disney Plus Percy Jackson adaptation? The answer is yes to that. We'll talk about that afterwards because we got another very similar email. So when it comes to me, I'm going to say this, and this is not dodging the question, but when it comes to liking or disliking something, for me, it's okay to dislike media. Like some people love things, some people hate things. It's all a matter of preference. Like what I like for characters doesn't translate to another person. When it comes to you liking a character, I will never take that away from you. Like I can only say my opinion of the matter. Like when it comes to Nico, the reasons why I hate him is I used to think I was super dark and broody, but for me, I don't really like that in a character because it's so easy to create a character that's dark and broody, but you don't give them any depth except for their being dark and broody.
I don't necessarily think that Nico is just that. I could see him being developed into a more complicated character already. I feel like we've learned a lot about him. And even in this chapter, he's kind of you get this complicated sense of he's, I don't know, he's willing to make some sacrifices maybe for
The
more
greater good.
somewhat selfish reason, not even greater good though, just for kind of what he wants, and he doesn't always think about his actions, but I don't know if that makes him bad. There's a lot of complicated things with his morality, so I don't really think that he's one-dimensional actually, even in this series.
For me, when it comes to this chapter, this is the perfect level of Nico that I like. When he's super depressing, is not oh god, here we go again.
Yeah, I feel before they were definitely using him more as he just all of a sudden became very downer and didn't really have the nuance in how he was acting. But now that he sort of is friends with Percy,
he feels an
it's
actual
interesting.
Now.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him both be the old Nico that we know, who's a little bit maybe short-sighted, but also he has this loyalty to someone like Percy. So it's both at the same time.
And I'll say this is that in Battle Labyrinth, he wasn't really a character because he was more of a plot device. He was almost like an NPC. You need to get to him for the story to advance. And then that's kind of one of those things I'm sure Rick Riordan, when he wrote it, he's kind of okay, they need to get to Nico, but we also need to see Nico in this way. And also, the problem, though, is that Percy Jackson misinterpreted what Nico was saying about a soul for a soul until the very end of the book. So you kind of think, oh, he's evil. Does that really work? But here, as you see Nico in this book, my favorite interactions with Nico is actually in the Demigod Files, when it's Nico, Percy, and Thalia working together is so much fun. That's such a great dynamic. But when it comes to Nico being dark and broody in that way, I know, to answer your question about the other spoilery things, yes, that stuff's actually really great. And that's the first time I ever saw that in a book. And we'll eventually get to that. And I really love what Rick has done with the character in the later series, but we're kind of talking about it right now. So once we get to that, we'll talk about it, because I have a lot to say about it and a lot of thoughts about that particular character arc with Nico.
Yeah, again, I can't speak to it until I fully kind of know the context of where he ends up as a character. But so far, I don't really think he's as one-dimensional even as when he was first introduced.
No, it's I don't like Bianca because she never really had a redemption whatsoever. She never even, you see it off screen, I guess, but you never see it as, through the eyes of Percy Jackson of kind of I'm so sorry for doing this to you, really. If I would have said my least favorite character is Bianca, but then rereading this book, it's just a little different, but I would never take that away from you if you like Nico, if that character has helped you so much. There's plenty of characters, book series that I love where I hate characters, The Name of the Wind. I love that story, but the main character, Quoth, is the biggest jerk ever in any book series I've ever read, and he's insufferable. And that's kind of like the reason why I like all the other characters in the book series. And that's okay to like things and hate things, and just stay true to yourself and don't change your opinion.
Yeah, I think different characters resonate with different people, kind of based on their own personal experience. I have like okay feelings about Nico. I think sometimes he's a real jerk, and other times I really like him and find him interesting. Or even when he's being a jerk, I find him interesting. So, I mean, everyone's sort of entitled to be like, oh, this specific character like really resonates with me, and so that's good.
Yes, that's awesome. B, what's the next email?
Next email is from Tyler, who says, "Hey Z and B." Oh, that confused my brain for a second. From Z to B.
From C to
I'm just
Shining
catching
B.
up on your podcast, and though you guys might want and thought you guys might want to know, Rick Riordan himself is in talks with Disney. He's trying his hardest to get an adaptation. I am a son of Hades and actually really identify with Nico because of Redacted. It's funny, considering our last email. I love your podcast and love not just the topics, but your voices as well. Sorry about my voice for this episode. Thanks for being amazing and keep staying mortal. PSB, you're the best. Oh, just me specifically? I mean, Zach's the best too.
Oh, thanks. You hear that? I just got thrown under a nice bus that just exploded. Oh no, Sarah's driving. Of course.
You don't want Sarah driving a bus. She can't even drive a car.
Oh no. Well, that's why she hit me with the bus.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened.
To answer your question though, Tyler, joking aside, I think both of us have heard about it. I know we got billions of tweets about it.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know yet. It's sort of like up in the air, the Rick Riordan thing.
So what I can say about this, and this is just how the business works, and this is not my personal experience with this, but this is how, like, Rick Riordan going to Disney and doing it, this is what they call the beginning of, like, the quarterly, like, before they actually make their like their budget and like what type of shows they're trying to produce for the year. They ask people to come in because Rick Riordan retains the rights now, and Disney owns like television, movies.
Right, he's already involved with Disney, so...
Yeah, he's already involved, so what he came in to do was he was pitching the idea, and what he does is, like, he shows them, like, the book sales, what's the demographic, like, he pretty much gives them the whole, like, this is why you should make the show, this is why it's important, and the weird thing that was, like, Disney Plus is such a new service that I'm not going to say that the series won't be made, but looking at the stuff, like, The Mandalorian just ended and people, like,
and
canceling their description.
Was, like, a very big property that isn't quite the same as, like, Percy Jackson's like a big property for a kids book series, but it's like not as like ubiquitous and important as Star Wars in a way where it's like they could depend on people watching The Mandalorian. I don't know if like there's as many people being like, oh, of course, Percy Jackson, we could really bank on that,
Well, it's the same as with like Series of Unfortunate Events with a Netflix series. They try to bank it off as like this is going to be the next big thing.
And it was not. Well, they also did not advertise that show nearly
that's
enough.
One of the reasons is that they didn't advertise it as well, and the viewership kind of depleted. That's why there was no merchandise. Even with like Percy Jackson, there isn't quite any merchandise. It's kind of that weird thing. When it comes to other book series, there's merchandise up the wazoo. But only time will tell. Maybe looking at it, like if I were to give like an educated guess, most likely we'll probably hear about something because they own the rights to it. There's plenty of books. Actually, Percy Jackson has been on the New York Times bestseller list for almost over 10 years at this point. It's like 655 weeks or whatever. There's plenty to go with that. And it's possible. What we'll see for a Percy Jackson series, I don't know. I just watched The Witcher, and I was so happy with that because it's such a faithful adaptation. I finished his Dark Materials. That was a perfect adaptation. Like, we live in an age now where adaptations are so much better than the movies because you can make TV shows just as good as movie quality, sometimes better. The Mandalorian ended and people like losing their subscription, so they need new content because right now Disney Plus is lacking original content and people are leaving. And I could talk about this for a very long time, but to answer you guys, if there is a series, I'd be excited to talk about it. I'd be excited to see the minutia and what goes into it. Will it be live action? Will it be a cartoon? Who knows? We'll figure that out if that happens. Though, it does take a while for these things to take off, so don't be surprised if you don't hear about this for a year or two.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that's like in development. I mean, the Unfortunate Events show took at least a couple of years to kind of we heard about it and then they were filming. Like, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to like cast people and like or even decide whether or not it's going to be a show. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen for it to be a thing. I hope it ends up being, a real thing.
I hope so, because for me, in my lifetime, I've seen 3 of the worst book to movie adaptations: Series of Unfortunate Events, The Golden Compass, and The Lightning Thief. And in my lifetime, I've gotten to really...
Those are dark days in the early 2000s, huh?
And then later on in life, I've gotten a very good adaptation of Series of Unfortunate Events, a very good adaptation of The Golden Compass. Hopefully they do the other ones. And hopefully Percy Jackson would be the one to rule them all.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope it works out. That would be really awesome.
So we got an email from DJ. Hi, I'm DJ and I'm 10 years old and I love your show. I'm trying to publish a book, surprisingly for my age, and you and Rick Riordan inspire me to make it related to mythology. Thank you, guys.
That's really cool.
All I will say about that, my advice is just keep writing every day. You know, write that first draft. That first draft will probably be really bad, but the second draft and the third draft will kick so much butt. Just get it done, and then you worry about editing. Doesn't matter if you spell things wrong. Doesn't mean if you have to add that punctuation. It's easier to move forward than go back for your first draft. Right? I think I'm giving the right advice, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really bad at writing, so do not take my advice. I don't even write fiction, so I don't know. Get it done, I guess. That's probably the best advice, because I feel like a lot of the time people just plan on writing and then they don't. So the fact that you're writing at all is an accomplishment in and of itself, really.
We did get one more email. B, do you want to read it?
Yeah, we got an email from Jess who says, Hi, Zack and B. Jess here. You wondered last week if Hestia was mentioned in the first book, and yes, she was. In the center of the field was a huge stone-lined fire pit. Even though it was a warm afternoon, the hearth smoldered. A girl about 9 years old was tending the flames, poking the coals with a stick. Sorry about the short email, but thought you'd like to know. Oh, okay, so she is. Yeah, I didn't remember.
So Rick Riordan was planning the long game. I'm sure that when I was reading it, I wasn't really paying attention.
So yeah, he plants some stuff early on in the series. I feel like he definitely plots his books way more than Daniel Handler.
Or that was just like, thank God I wrote this into the book, and then I'll just turn her into Hestia.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was retcon. It's so hard to tell if he's retconning or if he plans things.
I'm going to say that's not my cynical thinking. I'm thinking that he had this all planned out from the beginning, because, you know, when you sit on a book like this and you planned it as a series, and the way it ends, yeah, I'm sure he planned a lot of things out. And that's really exciting for me. So, B, do you want to read some Apple Podcast reviews?
So, yeah, we got a few Apple Podcast reviews. We got one from Overlord Runt 777, who said, This podcast is amazing. Hey, Zack and B, I really like your podcast. I'm writing a script for Horsing Around. P.S. Please read this.
Oh, no.
I hope you finish the script for Horsing Around and you send it to us, and we can read it on the air in character as the Horse Around character. I don't know if I should promise that. Maybe we could do it as a bonus episode. We'll see.
Midday. Oh. Exterior, horse ranch, midday. Little girl walks by a horse that's half man, half horse.
Half horse. All dad.
All dad. Wearing flannel top, and he's wearing nothing on the bottom. Wow! You're a horse and a dad. I wish my dad had another dad. He's been so sad for a long time.
I wish my dad had another dad. Yeah. That's the first line in the story, actually, yeah. Thank you so much for your review, and I really hope that you write that script. I'm looking forward to it.
Hi, guys. I'm a big fan. I'm a son of Hephaestus. I just wanted to say I love you. The podcast, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. A short and sweet one.
So we did get another one from Adwi, Bug1. I love this podcast. I listen to it every Monday while doing my homework. Both of you make me laugh so hard, and I hope you keep doing the show.
Thank you. That's very sweet. I'm surprised you're able to focus. I could never do homework and listen to us saying a bunch of
random things.
Nonsense. Yeah. So really, I'm really commending you on your focus.
You're the real MVP here.
The MVP. So yeah, we got one more Apple Podcast review from This Name Is Taken 24, who says, so I sent a review just saying best podcast ever a few weeks ago, but I thought a real review would work. So anyway, I love your podcast. I read PJO/Heroes of Olympus in 3rd grade, then moved on to, what's TOA?
Trials of Apollo.
Oh, Trials of Apollo, and what's KC? KC is...
King Chronicles.
King Chronicles. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Listen, I haven't read these books yet, but recently I reread PGO and Heroes of Olympus, and about when I was on Demigod Files, I started listening to your podcast. Surprisingly, at the same time, you two were on Demigod Files too. Afterwards, I went on to listen to every new episode, start from the beginning. Anyway, I love the idea that Zack is trying not to spoil everything, and B is like, maybe Percy will combine with Bob. But in general, I think B's guesses are mostly accurate. Sorry if this is long. That's hilarious. So yeah, maybe I'm very dumb that I guessed the Bob thing. I was just kind of being silly. Sometimes my most whack out there guesses are right, and my guesses that I think are probably right end up being totally wrong. So it's really a crapshoot out there. We never know.
I'm just going to spoil the whole series for you, B. Percy Jackson meets the real Percy Jackson. The real Percy Jackson was inside Percy Jackson the entire time.
Okay, this is too complicated even for me.
You don't even know if that's a spoiler or not.
No, I don't. I have no idea. That's the point of this show, is that I'm dumb.
Well, it's okay, because I'm dumb. And that makes us human, doesn't it? There's a lot of things I forget about these books, so rediscovering them makes me so happy. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to another amazing episode of Radio Camp Half-Blood. I think it's time to put down the studio. I think the sweeping Minotaur is going to come into the studio any second now. I think I see him banging on the door.
I think Hades is here to take me to the underworld because I am knocking on death's door with my cough.
Be Mibuki.
The Undertaker is here to measure me for my coffin.
It's surprising it's like an old-timey Undertaker, too, with like a horse and carriage.
No, a centaur.
Of
course. Oh, no, he just is a centaur, but he's also an Undertaker. Every story we ever make is also, every human is also a centaur, and every horse is also a centaur.
Is this just the Halloween episode of Horsing Around?
Maybe. Or it's just a very weird, dark Christmas episode, kind of like a Christmas Carol.
I have such a dumb question. Do you think a centaur dresses up as a horse for Halloween? Or does it try to dress up as a person for Halloween?
So it just puts on a horse mask and then it's a horse?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe they just put pants on their front legs and they're like, I'm a dumb human.
Wait, I always love like the memes like, do you wear the pants this way or this or maybe this way?
Oh, God. Let's not bring that back, that ancient meme.
Well, it's almost 2020, but everybody, I want to thank you for listening to our show. This is the last episode of 2019 of the whole decade. Holy glob. This was insane.
Yeah, 2020. We made it, you guys. We've made it so far.
I'm about to put on my flapper uniform and maybe invest in the stock market.
Flapper uniform sounds like an oxymoron, but I see what you're getting at. I, like a dum-dum, am having a New Year's Eve party tomorrow, even though my body is still a struggle. But I don't know, maybe some fried risotto balls will make me happier.
Are you crashing harder than the great market crash in 1929?
Possibly, yes. Yeah, but it's okay. We'll pretend it's all right because we'll
do the Charleston on flagpoles.
Yeah, we'll just go full Gatsby and just like pretend that the imminent end of our joyous days aren't upon us. Wow, that's dark. Let's not it's the beginning of the 20s. There's still so much ahead of us before the great crash. You know, there's a whole decade.
I'm excited. I'm excited for all of the stuff that's coming up. We're going to have new adventures, new episodes, new friends maybe. Who knows?
And probably new inside jokes about centaurs. I can almost guarantee that.
And guess what? We'll be starting a new series next year. So that's really exciting. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, there's so much in store. I will know even less.
But I want to wish you all a happy new year. Hope 2020 kicks your butt in the best ways possible, makes you the best.
Maybe I hope you kick 2020's butt. I think you got that. That's sort of like the line in that episode of Bob's Burgers where he's talking about beating him up, but he phrases it wrong. Anyway, you know what I mean.
Well, I hope you guys have a kick-ass 2020. You kick its butt as well as it kicks your butt by making you the best demigod you can possibly be.
Yeah, and I hope you guys enjoyed your holiday. If you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Yule.
I know what I'm doing. I'm about to see cats.
Well, that's a holiday in and of itself, the day where your brain liquefies and falls out of your ears.
Yes. Well, guys, where can they find you, B?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at bkellygorman, and you can find me on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com.
If you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Suda41, that's SUDA41. If you want to follow our show on Twitter, that's at halfblood_radio. We have a Patreon /Radio Camp Halfblood. We have t-shirts available on TeePublic. Just go to www.teepublic.com. We have some things in store. So I'm excited for that. Thank you guys for listening to another wonderful episode. Well, I'm Zach.
I'm B.
And let's keep staying mortal. See ya.
Bye, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Woohoo. Judi Dench, I'm coming for you.
Oh, my God.